Hi, this is Damon Pistolka, host of The Faces of Business, where I talk with interesting people, sharing life and business experiences to entertain, engage, build community, and provide information to help others succeed. If you're interested in learning more about one of our guests or how we are helping business owners generate wealth and build businesses they can sell or succeed at Exit Your Way, you can find more information on our website, exityourway.com, or by contacting me directly, Damon at exityourway.com. I hope you enjoy the show. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I am your host, Damon Pistolka, and I am so excited because today we've got none other than Doug Greenberg from Pinnacle Wealth Advisory. Today we are going to be talking about scaling for the sale, and what we're specifically going into is preparing your business to maximize the value at the exit. Doug, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to sharing some good advice.
Awesome. Well, we're going to have some fun today. And like we always do on the show, Doug, we want to start out with, how did you get into what you're doing today? What really, was the thing that said, oh, I want to help people with wealth advisory?
Boy, that's a great question, Damon. I'm going to go back to when I was 6 years old and just start year by year. How's that?
There we go.
No, kidding aside, I was very fortunate to grow up in a regional family business here in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
We had 25 stores across the state. We're in the early 70s, doing about 50, 60 million a year in revenue. And my father and his brother ran the business, and I got to literally sit at my father's knee and learn business, learn how to help customers, how to help clients, how to make people happy, how to get the right thing to the right people, and to do it all with respect and kindness. And I then went through college and studied economics and finance and entrepreneurship and banking. And I was always an entrepreneur all through college, had a bunch of different ventures, got out of school and started working for a private company called EDS. And it took me 6 months of interviews, right? I had to wear a white shirt and a dark striped tie. I mean, it was that, And I got the job, and I was within a couple of months bored stiff. And it was at that moment where one, working in a corporation is not for me.
Yeah.
And two, I wanted to use my economics and my entrepreneurship to do something. I didn't know what. So I had flown to Oregon. I had about 4 or 5 job offers in Oregon, and I took the one with Merrill Lynch because the gentleman hiring me said, "Hey, if you'll work like no one else will for the first couple of years, you'll live like no one else can for the rest of your life."
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a standard sales pitch or not, but it was effective. And I jumped in, and that was in 1994. And for the following 24 years, I grew a business helping both institutional clients as well as retail clients, and had an internal rate of return of something like 16% a year in terms of my asset growth.
Yeah.
And I just loved it. I had a blast, and was able to really, really achieve satisfaction by helping clients, whether they were business owners, politicians, whether they were kids in college, right? Just bear hugging them and being able to say, okay, at these milestones in life, raise your hand and come to me and let's talk it through. And so that business grew, And over time, I recognized that the institutional business was going to go away given structural changes in the financial services industry, primarily because of what occurred in '07 and '08.
Mm-hmm.
And so I reorganized my company, focused strictly on individuals and business owners, and to some extent businesses. And now I solely work with entrepreneurs and business owners, and it is. I mean, I get up every day and I'm excited. It's probably like you. You get up and you're excited to help somebody.
Yeah, it's an awesome feeling to be able to do that. That's for sure. That's
right.
For sure.
I mean, I had a phone call this morning with two gentlemen who have bought a piece of real estate. They're looking for a private lender to cash out and then do some improvements and sell it. They don't have any connectivity. I fired up some contacts, and later this afternoon, I'm going to be sending them 4 private lenders that they're going to be able to start the process with, to get the ball rolling. And I'll be alongside them as they go through that process, helping them with the things that I can, making sure that they're getting everything done properly.
Yeah.
Because I want them to succeed, and I want to be next to them.
Yeah, that's awesome. So as you're talking to people about this, you're standing alongside them, what are some of the things that you notice that are common that people that you talk about business owners, what are some of the common pitfalls you see that they've fallen into that, conversations with you can really help them see that they're there, that they didn't know were there?
That's a great question. I find, and there's no fault to the business owner, but having run businesses, we've run businesses, is that you start your day and you've got a list of things you got to fix. You got a list of things that are problems, and then maybe you want to try to grow the business at the end of the day, right? But you got a lot of stuff in front. And so it's getting that business owner just to open up those blinders a little bit so that they can have a different perspective. And that also helps in the conversation about getting them out of the position they're in and get them up the org chart so that they got someone here doing the problems, managing the issues. So you could be more of a thinker, a grower, a connector. And business owners, that's a new concept to them because that's not in their org chart, right? There's no one above them.
Yeah.
So, that is, that right there provides a lot of heavy lift in the beginning because it sets the tone for this is where we're going. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a big lift. The other one, which kind of ties into what I do with business owners is, you're having that discovery conversation, and you're talking about sports and your favorite teams and where'd you go to college and where you going on vacation, right? And then you get down to the business stuff and you're learning about the business, and then you throw out, hey, what do you think kind of the value of your business is? And you probably have to say, they're like, I mean, I don't know. Is it 2x sales? I could do that math. And I'm like, so business owner does know the value of his business. And I think it's important for that business owner to know the value of their asset. Now, it's not for the perspective of, I need a high valuation for my bank statements. It's just more about a peace of mind. What am I running here? Is this a $2 million value, or is it a $20 million value? And clearly we're going to do things differently at different levels.
Mm-hmm.
So it's getting them in that mindset of going, let's figure out the value of your business. And many times that's going to uncover some of the things that they're lacking. I was on the phone with a current client. He has a great business model. They're growing. And the discussion came up about whether or not he needs to raise some money to further the growth of the company. And so I asked him, I said, when do you need this money? And he goes, I don't know. I said, let's look at your cash flow. He says, well, it's in a work in progress. He says, it's really hard to do. And I'm like, okay, why?
Yeah.
So he gives me the downloads. Okay. I go away. I create the schematic of how you think about it, flipped it back to him and said, we need a cash flow. So he came back 2 weeks later with a beautiful cash flow. I mean, detailed, fantastic. And I asked him the question, when do you need the cash? And he goes, July. I'm like, okay, we got to start. We know we need cash in July.
Yeah.
So me asking him that question got us to push him on creating this cash flow statement, which of course we know he needs.
Mm-hmm.
He's never run a business, so he didn't know the importance of it. And so getting him to be accountable for those projects is important for that business owner because they could slide by the wayside. Once you got that value of the business, it changes kind of who you talk to. You know, do you talk to business brokers? Do you talk to investment bankers?
Mm-hmm.
Right, it's a whole different strata. So I think that's important, and I think the final piece that business owners tend to not know is what are the constructs for them to exit their business. Is it a date in the March 12th? Is it we get certain sales? Is it the valuation? Because we know that when you look at that business cycle, he's going to be up here. He could be sliding down to low sales or low valuation, and then we pick it back up. So if he's here and he's like, I'm thinking of selling, I'm not sure. And then he's like, I don't want to sell. And it's like, remember, you're going to have some sort of a dip in your industry. You tell me what it looks like. If this is 5 years, we'll wait 5 years. If it's 7, we wait 7 for that high valuation. So it just allows them to recognize that just because they want to sell it today, it's not like going and buying gum at 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
We start at the peak of the market and we're going to be selling at the bottom of the market.
Yeah.
Because it takes time.
Yeah. The timeline, there's a couple things, and I'm glad you brought up value. I mean, because in my experience too, most business owners don't have a clear value of their business, the actual value, the clear understanding of the value of their business, or what really drives the value of their business. Because you talk to a business owner that says, hey, I got a $10 million business. And like you said, they think it's a multiple of revenue, but that's I'm a general contracting business and I make 5% or 3% net at the end of the day, which if my math is right, that's a few $100,000 on 10 million in revenue. That's drastically different than a $10 million business. That's a SaaS business. And I make 60% margins on my 10 million. And but yet they've seen something that says, well, this business, maybe in my industry, maybe not, got valued at 2x of revenue. And revenue, is only one of the indicators of value. And the reason not to dispute value, but the only reason to talk about value in the case that you run into is if I don't have a good understanding of my value and I don't have a good understanding of the exit costs, I really don't know when I exit how much money I'm going to have to do whatever is next in my life. So one of the big things that we talk with everybody about, clients, non-clients, I'll spend a lot of time talking about this, because if that owner has not established a reasonable value for their business, and when I say a reasonable value, I said, don't pay somebody a little money to go out and get a real valuation. Don't try to do a free online thing. Don't do that. Make sure they've done some things to really go through your business a bit to do it. Because if it's a few $1,000 to get a reasonable valuation, or 5,000, whatever it is, you will far exceed the value of that, because your decisions will change as soon as you know the value of your business and what changes the value of your business. Because the biggest mistake that I see in valuation is I think it's 2 times that $10 million. And we come time when I'm ready and we go, okay, I'm ready to exit. I want to sell it. I'm going to get $20 million. It's going to be great, blah, blah, blah. And they come to that point and they realize, no, really, your business is worth about $600,000 or $700,000. And I mean, literally these kind of things, these conversations happen.
Mm-hmm.
And, not only is that a huge bummer, right? I mean, and I'm understating it a lot.
Yeah.
But they've massively missed the mark on what's next for them in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, to me, is a bigger thing. And that's why I think and what you're doing, helping them early, helping them, understand that as an asset in their total quiver of what I'm going to use for my next phase in life, or what I have available to me in my next phase of life, is huge.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to that point, it's been at least 20 years. I came across that once, and I mean, we didn't get very far, but I had that disappointment. The emotional gamut is disappointment, anger, frustration. Your numbers are wrong. I mean, and quite frankly, we want to add value to that business owner's life, right? Their lives are busy running a business, and as you and I know, it's constant. So to eliminate that, so what I did is I created this process, and it's two-pronged. You come to me and you say, hey, I want to sell my business. Okay, great. Let me dive into the financials. Let me talk to some people around the business to kind of triangulate some information. And then I'm sitting down with that business owner and I am building a robust financial plan for that business owner. And I'm going to include, a valuation on the business. I'll probably do, a low and a high. Okay. And whether he's had a valuation study done, or I'll go to a buddy and give him the numbers and he'll give me a rough draft, and then I run that plan. Because what that plan tells me is if I have a business, I sell the business, I net the business, I now have this much in assets. This much in assets is going to generate this much in cash flow. Business owner, it's 2 or 3x what you need. Feels this works. Stage one. We will then on a kind of a rough draft, have some preliminary conversations with them around any sort of estate planning, business planning, tax planning, charitable planning. Load that up into my my financial plan. Mm-hmm. Here's the number, right? And the number's always better because if we use some tax advantage stuff, it's going to help, right? So then he goes, okay, I got a range of value. It's a range, right? We got to stay in a range. I don't want to be picking a number. We got a range of values at the end. And he's like, okay, I'm ready. Now, clearly all the other boxes have been checked and we've done some things. At that point, what I'll do is I'll take that business owner. Now, I know pretty much, I know a lot about them because I've done a financial plan. So we've spent a bunch of sessions together. Mm-hmm. But now it's about creating a team around that business owner for a transaction. The first thing I say to a business owner is there anybody in your industry, a competitor or someone you know really, really well that might want to buy your business? Okay. So, if that's the case, then we simply need to get a transactions attorney, an M&A attorney to manage the transaction. We don't need a banker. Mm-hmm. And that's the way I like to start because it's less expensive. It's easier. We don't have to find anybody to buy it. If that doesn't pan out, then I'm going to help the business owner go through a process of interviewing at least 2, most of the times 3 mid-tier investment bankers that fit his industry. Mm-hmm. So I want to find someone who buys and sells gas stations, right? All day long. I want the expert. And I'll set up calls with the business owner and the expert, the banker. I will facilitate the call, be on the call. And as I share with business owners, I said, so here's how this works. Investment bankers, they want information about your business and industry. Okay. Mm-hmm. We want information about the industry, what he's seeing, who's buying, who's selling. And we just pass information. It also is educating that banker, even if we don't pick them to run the transaction, that there's a company here for sale. So if he's got a buyer, he's going to call us. I got a buyer. Because remember, those investment bankers get paid when they do deals. Mm-hmm. So we narrow it down. We pick the investment banker, right? We have, if we need a deal CPA, if we need to do any sort of, quality of earnings or any sort of audit, get everybody in place. And then I drop down to the CC line, finish working with the business owner on the financial plan, and the investment banker takes it, right? And then I'm there seeing every email because there'll be a point in time when the business owner has a question and he wants to ask me rather than the banker.
Yep.
Right. So, now, now we fast forward, we won't talk about the business transaction. Now we fast forward, we have found a buyer, we're signing docs, we've traded, Fed wire transfer numbers, and, the deal gets done. A week later, the deal funds. And for the past 3 or 4 or 5 months, I've created a transition plan for the proceeds. And that plan, at least in the beginning, is typically going to do a few things to make that owner feel very comfortable. One, we're going to set up a simple draft that goes, an ACH draft that goes into his checking account on the first of every month, just like he was getting paid from the business. Right? Boom, every month. Now, it may be the right number, it may be too high, it may be too low, but we want to let him know that you're going to have all this money. It's great, and this is how we're going to, pay it to you on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
Right? And by that time, he and I have already completed the investment process. He knows where it's going. He knows how it's going to work. Because I don't want a business owner. It's stressful enough around a sale, stressed about, I got all this money in my checking account at the bank, wrong place to keep it.
Yeah.
And what do I do? And all of that concern and that anxiety, we just put it to bed.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you're doing this, what are some of the realizations that you see your clients having?
Some of the realizations that they have come from disbelief that it's finally going to occur.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Right? I mean, you grind away for 10 or 15 years, and in year 8 and 9 and 10, it doesn't even matter what it's worth because you're just grinding. Mm-hmm. And so, it's disbelief, it's happiness, it's joy. And in those moments, it tends to be very easy to be able to have those conversations with them around what is the ultimate purpose of this money? What is our goal? Is this a pot that we want 7 generations to be dipping out of in 700 years? Is this a pot that you want run down to zero, bounce the last check? How do we manage kids with a lot of money? It's a sticky situation. So providing that business owner with some of that education around each of those little events kind of brings them up to speed and puts that worry away. I think some of the other things is that they then, once they realize that the value of the business is X. If I sell it for X plus one, I'm going to have more money. I'm going to have charitable stuff set up. I'm going to have kids trusts set up. And now what am I going to do with my life? Right. So we spend a lot of time talking about what's next.
Yeah.
Right. Because again, they, in most cases, this is the first time that they're selling a business.
Yeah.
And we've transacted, more than we can count. So helping them with that additional knowledge in a place that they've never been, they just soak it up. Right. And it provides that calm level of it just kind of big breath.
Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of businesses actually don't sell because the owners get to the end and they go, what am I going to do tomorrow if I don't have to come here? I mean, it literally kills a lot of, 8-figure deals because they just don't. They're like, well, I don't care about selling it today. I don't need the money. I think it's actually easier if you don't really need the money, right? Because it's like, hey, I just want to keep coming here until I can't anymore, don't feel like it. And, it's a costly decision, but it's a common one. And I'm glad that you brought up the fact that you need to spend time on what's next, because you really need to make what's next more impactful in its own way than growing your business was.
Well, and as that business owner has been growing that business, and anticipating some sort of a transaction, as we've discussed, there's a lot that they just don't know because they haven't encountered it. But I think what I try to tend to focus on, after we got the big heavy lifting done, is that softer stuff around money and kids.
Yeah.
Right. How do we not, for lack of a better term, spoil or ruin?
Yeah.
Because again, look, I help, clients and client kids from age 21, all the way up to 80.
Yeah.
Right. And they each have their different little, and so just making sure that we don't create additional problems with, a check of $100 million into someone's account.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and it's you bring up a great point, because money education is very important for the business owners, as you're talking about what you will be doing, and then the education for their children, spouses, anyone else in their family that could receive a significant amount of money too, because we've all seen how lottery winners, turn up the next day with hundreds of millions of dollars. They usually end up not that great after a number of years.
No, they don't.
No matter how much money, which is hard to believe, but it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens every day with business owners that build great businesses, sell it, and tend to set up their next generation, only to find that they didn't educate their next generation well enough to, invest money, to spend, and to invest it in things that are going to be good long-term income generators for them. Because it just it's so common to see that if you don't put that educational time in, that they'll be 5 years down the road and a lot of times won't have it.
Right. Well, and there's always this conversation around, business owners ask, well, when should I start getting ready to sell it? Well, how about 20 seconds ago?
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah.
20 years ago.
And it's funny because, we can get transactions done fast if you have to. It's not fun, not always 100%, but you can do it. But, I will talk with those business owners, right, way early on. I mean, they may not even been thinking about an exit, right, when I'm starting to sprinkle in, right, things about what they need to do with their business. For instance, I developed a checklist that I send out to business owners, and it's not inclusive, but it definitely helps you think about, wow, do I have a facilities guide, a book that shows where all the switches are and the HVAC is, and who are the HVAC contractors, right? Do I have do I have my customers set up properly? Do I have diversification? Right. And so I'll go to lunch with business owners once a quarter, clients, and we'll tackle this stuff. I'll be like, hey, talk about your customers. Well, we're working down we had 3 big ones. Now we're working down, we got 10.
Yep.
Right. And each along the way, looking to improve those client relationships as you start new ones. Right. Same thing goes with on the accounting piece. Right. I mean, I'll look to you for this, but, I would love to have, whether it's a quality of earnings or even heavier audits, audited statements, so that we are golden. We don't have to talk about financials, so to speak, except the notes, right? As a way to check that box and go, hey, we're clean. Right.
Yes. Yes.
And there's a whole list, right? Financial systems, legal, goes on.
Yeah, there are. And I think that when you talk about these things, you bring up a few good points. And first of all, importance of accuracy and third-party checks in your data. When you get to, you get even close to 10 million, you get above 10, you get above 20, you get above 50. I mean, you just get above a certain point and you got to spend the money to get the right checks on your financials, right? Because it just, and then if you're going to do something in a high volume transactions, like an e-commerce business, you got $20 million e-commerce business, you better just plan on getting the quality of earnings, because it's not going to go anywhere without it. And that means you're also going to do a review and all that good stuff, because listen, those people, you got to think about what you would do on the other side. If you were writing a check for whatever it is, $15 million, $20 million, $50 million, you don't just do that because someone says, oh yeah, these are the numbers. Yeah, right. They're good. Look,
don't check them. You don't have to check them.
Yeah. It adds up. 1 + 1 = 2. Right. And this is where you can run a large business if it doesn't have significant debt or investors without ever doing an audit or a financial review.
Right. But
when you come to a sale, you're dead in the water if you don't want to do that in some cases. And in a lot of cases, it's the difference between doing it or not. And these kind of things are where you really have to step back and talk with someone like yourself, someone that understands the business transactions, that goes, listen, I know you don't care about how much market share you have in your market, but the buyer certainly will. And if you're at 90%, that's a big thing, because they want growth. It's the same thing you said. Customers had this a few years ago. Oilfield services company, almost 90% of their company revenue was from one customer.
Wow.
Now, great, multiple 8-figure business, right? Wonderful long-term relationships with clients. Couldn't sell it. Have to go back to the drawing board. You have to work on that. You have to make those things. You said there are just some things that when you step back, you don't have, the buyer does not have 10, 15 years to get used to this, get the risk profile, talk to their investors and go, okay, we've been at this long enough. I'm comfortable with Susan. I've been doing business with her for a decade. She's going to keep doing business. Her business is strong. They don't have that. They have, buyers are going to buy something that's, above, just say $5 million. They're going to be investment buyers. Listen, they're spending other people's money. They have to know they're making a good decision. They don't know about your business. They have to get up to speed to spend that money in about 90 days.
Yeah.
All the way from all things. They're going to negotiate a letter of intent. Then they get to do their diligence. That diligence period of just say 60 to 90 days, whatever it is their time to get comfortable with spending the millions of dollars. So when you back up and stand back, a business owner stands back from that, think about what you would need to make that to make that same kind of investment in your business, and you're in the industry, you would be wanting that kind of stuff too. Because if Damon and Doug weren't that good at accounting and we did a little flip on the numbers somehow and it didn't show up quite right, I could
You're
spend.
not going to find out for 5,
Yeah.
6, 8 months.
Yeah. And you know, it could be that we've made a million, multiple millions, tens of $1 million blunder.
Right.
And that costs a lot. And it's so I think putting yourself, my whole long diatribe there is putting yourself in the position of the buyer, talking to someone like yourself that really understands my holistic financial picture,
Mm-hmm.
that can say, listen, Steve or Susan, we've looked at the value of your business. That looks reasonable. Your portfolio comes together like this. You know, you're going to be fine. It's going to set your family up. Your philanthropic desires are going to work like you want. It's a good thing. And let them, and then they have that comfort. And then you say, and by the way, we want to make sure that our buyers are comfortable by getting the right people to help us eliminate any questions.
Yes.
And get it to the end easier. Because I'll tell you that in my experience, there's nothing more disheartening for someone that's trying to sell a business to get to the 20-yard line. You're in the red zone, where I like to play when we're doing it.
Yep.
And not score. And
Take
it's
us back.
because you didn't do that, because you didn't address customers, because you didn't address your financial, you know, whatever it is, because it is the work to get there is massive.
Mm-hmm.
And missing that little incremental piece that you should have taken back months ago causes a tremendous difference in that point. And I really, what you're doing to help people put this all together, put it into a plan, go through the stages and do this is wonderful.
And it's a blast. You know, you brought up 2 things that I want to touch on. When you are selling a business and you anticipate LOIs coming in, it is critical to do planning, estate planning and business planning prior to the receipt or signing of the LOI.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Now I say this and you're like, well, of course, right? But the minute that LOI gets signed, it's like there's a wall built and everything back here you can't mess with. You can only do stuff on the go forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a lot of great stuff you can do before the owner has the LOI in his hand.
Yes.
The other thing I'll point out, which I think that, again, business owners get focused on the checklist of things they gotta fix or make sure is right. You know, the value of the future value of any business is what kind of rev are they going to do in the future? How are they going to grow that rev? And so if you've got a business that is doing well and you've got another 10 strategies that you would be like, man, if I was here, I'd implement, putting those in to that presentation and showing the effects of that future, opportunity shows a couple of things. One, that there's additional value in the business on the go forward, but that this is a even more viable business because I got these 10 initiatives that I'm going to hop on because the previous owner wanted to, but just ran out of time. Mm-hmm. And it'll add value, and so being able to show that, obviously increases the value of the business.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we do that, we usually want to have a 1, 3, and 5 year plan. And the 1 year plan, you're currently executing where you're going to go. And if your growth initiative is really going to keep going beyond the 1 year plan, it can fold into the 3 year, but usually the 3 year plan switches from one of the, your growth strategies into the second growth strategy, which by the time you start to sell your business, you should really be working on implementing the second growth strategy at the ground-based level, because if you don't, it's all pie in the sky. And that's it's a trap of business owners, because you can sit there and say, these are great opportunities, and tell a buyer that. And they're like, well, if it was so great, why didn't you do it? Mm-hmm. And so you really need to think about the fact that, something that's started down the road is way more valuable than something that's resting in your head, because all of us know how much difference from your head to actually doing it is, that are in business. And this is a great thing, though, that you hit on a really, really important thing. To maximize that last real desirable trait in your business is to put that buyer in a position where they're going to succeed really well over the next 3 to 5 years. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And because I think, being in Austin, this business community is phenomenal. And I'd love to have you come down and spend some time in here and meet some people, but it's a really cool community. It's very encompassing, and it would not be unheard of, right, to have those advisors, selling the business to the buyer, and then having, the big powwow of the previous owner with the new owner and the advisors talking about the business and how, now the deal's done, I got my cash. Yeah. Now let's talk about, right, all this stuff, right, that I see out there, right, because it's going to help them. And we want to help people, right? Yeah. We want to help people at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. So and I want to make sure you had something, a slide or two that you wanted to go over. I want to make sure if we haven't covered the stuff in the slide, let's get it up on the screen, because when you're ready to go, let me know. I'll put it up.
Pop it up there, because I think it's great. It's great timing. Well, it's not that. Oh, I know what happened. Here, let's pull that down.
All right.
And now pull it up.
Right, there we go. We got
there we go. So, one of the things that's difficult for business owners, high net worth individuals, is to know who to call when, right? And I have structured my business over the last 30 years to be the consigliere, to be that point person, that when that business owner, receives a phone call from someone that wants to buy them, right, the first call is to me. Mm-hmm. Right. So we can think about it. So I put myself in that position because it allows me to kind of manage the team. So mm-hmm. it's a football analogy. That owner is, the client's the team owner, right? And I am the general manager. And then below me are investments, attorneys, CPAs, investment ideas. And so, we're working with them as a way to manage this process so that the team owner has one mouth that goes through, that they trust, to help understand how all of these opportunities fit into their risk profile, right? And so, it's always difficult for me, when someone says, well, when should I call you? And I'm like, well, if you got a question about something that's got a dollar sign in front of it, just call.
Yeah, there you go.
Because that's, if you can handle, the car loan, and you don't want to check car loan rates, you're good. I've had people call me up. I'm buying a car. Can you get me a better rate than there? Of course, so we're always want to be there. But these are, kind of the 5 big ones. You have liquidity events, selling a business, getting an inheritance, getting a big deal done. Mm-hmm. You got those life transitions, which are, more humanish, with the retirements and divorces and death. Big milestones.
Yeah.
Kids getting that big chunk of inheritance at 40, when it finally coming through. And a lot of that also comes into play with folks who are, I've got this money, but who am I and what am I and what are this for? What's this for? Help me set goals around the use of this. Help me set goals around being a good steward of these funds, wherever they came from.
Mhm.
And then, of course, the most fun is helping business owners get their businesses ready and selling them, right? Because that's the most fun, because you can make such a difference in that business owner's life.
Yes.
It blows away. If you'll hit that, if you'll go to the next, or maybe I did. So
You got to go to the next slide.
yeah. So I'll tell you a quick story, real quick story. A guy runs a machine shop. This is in Oregon. He runs a machine shop. He's always thinking about selling it, right? But it's not going to get much, and he's not doing much revenue, but it's a place for him to go to. And so I gather all his info. I do my financial planning. I bring the husband and the wife in to talk to them both. Okay. Standard. And I start sharing with them that, you could, if you want, retire right now. You can toss the keys of the shop to the next guy down. And if you got zero out of the shop and your inventory, you can still retire. And this is the deal. And the wife looks at him and goes, I kid you not, what did you do? Like accusing him of doing something wrong so they can retire. And she starts to cry. And he looks at her and is like, I don't know. Right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, I just smiled so big. And here's what it did. It allowed them, that business owner then was able to do like this and like this. And that business owner was able to make the decision that says, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work a little less. I'm going to hunt a little more, because that's what he liked. And they ended up buying a small lake house outside of Seattle that they are going to with their grandkids. So, just the conversation about, it just all starts from that beginning, right? They had no idea of the capabilities and how they could lead their life because they hadn't done any sort of analysis.
Yeah.
Or sat with a professional who could decipher it for them. And that to me is it's just killer.
That's awesome. Well, Doug, it was great having you here today. And I just appreciate you stopping by and talking with us about, the financial planning aspects, some of the considerations these business owners really want to look at when they go to prepare their business for sale, to get more money and really achieve their goals in that. So if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way? We had your QR code, your links up there. Can they reach out to you on LinkedIn? What's your website address? Give me that stuff.
Yep. The website address is doug@pnwadvisory.com.
Okay.
Pretty simple. My and that gets you everywhere. I'm on LinkedIn as well, Doug Greenberg. The name of the company is Pinnacle Wealth Advisory.
All right.
And we got to get you down to Austin, Damon. There's some good food, some good music, some good people.
Yep, there is. That's for sure. Well, Doug, thanks for being here today. And Usman, thanks for dropping a couple comments in there. Appreciate you stopping by. And all the people that were listening, but you didn't comment, I appreciate you. Well, I can see we've had some people on here today, and appreciate you listening and sharing your time with us today. If you got in late, go back to the beginning and start over and listen to Doug, because he left some golden nuggets for business owners to help to really think differently about their exit, plan better for it, and really maximize that value going out the door. Doug, hang out for a moment. We'll finish up offline.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody.